Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Mike D'Ambrosio, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host, Mike D'Ambrosio.
Welcome into Real Estate Radio Live, the podcast series. I'm Mike D'Ambrosio, real estate professional and your host. We hope you're enjoying our new podcast format. I guess it's not so new anymore. I mean, we've been doing this a while now. But we hope you enjoy the information and education. You can download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or you can go to reradiolive.com. You can make sure to get our app, RE Radio Live, in the iTunes store and follow the show, or download the show and follow the show in your what is it called, podcast app. And you can rate the show and give us your reviews and feedback. And please don't hesitate to reach out. And a lot of our shows come from, questions that listeners ask and are curious about. So please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me, MikeDsells.com is my website, or you can email me, Mike@reradiolive.com, or text or call 408-630-0101. I'd like to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Starburst Construction and Taps Termite. And you can visit them, starburstconstruction.com, or you can go to tapstermite.com. I think Cindy with Starburst Construction is coming on another week or two. We got a lot of good guests coming up, good stuff coming up in the coming weeks. I'd like to give a personal plug. We're coming up on my annual golf tournament. That's the third annual D'Ambrosio Golf Tournament. It's on September 18th. That's at Cinnabar Hills in San Jose. You can find more information on my website, MikeDsells.com. And that, again, September 18th. It's a scramble tournament, shotgun start, and it's benefiting all different types of organizations that are giving back scholarships to students in need. So really good cause, and it's a good time. And there'll definitely be a lot of things to drink and eat and have fun out there on the course. So check that out on my website. All right, so today I'm going to talk about, we talked about development a few weeks back. A lot of people have been reaching out about that. And I want to talk about, basically, especially in an area where we live in Silicon Valley and other urban or other more metropolitan big city areas that are losing and are going to don't have as much land to build on. You can't grow land. So basically we're stuck with what we got. And that's why you're going to start seeing more high density development going on all around you in big metropolitan areas that are built out pretty much, because that is going to be a higher and better use of the property than what was on it before. For example, an old house on a big lot, or an old shopping center on a big lot. You probably, see a pattern going here. Usually it's got to have a sizable lot where they can fit multiple units or mixed units on there with commercial, shopping, and living, and really try to fill in the pieces of property that don't have their highest and best use. So with that comes areas that are called urban villages or urban living. And a perfect example of that is Santana Row in San Jose. And Santana Row is one of the most successful urban villages in the country. It's in the books. It's in history books now, just with how successful it became. It used to be an old town and country shopping center. People listening into the show definitely, I'm sure, remember this town and country. But if you think about it, it was not the highest and best use of the property. It was a huge property with a single-level shopping center on it that was spread out and didn't really utilize all of the land. A lot of parking that was not necessarily needed because the place was really dying. And so now you have hundreds and hundreds of apartments or condos and lofts and townhouses, and you have a bunch of dining and entertainment, movie theater, office space. All of that stuff is in there now, fit on this one lot. So really, Santana Row is one for the history books, and they're all over the country, and there's going to be more coming up, and that's what there is an urban village plan for the city of San Jose and for Silicon Valley. So I wanted to talk, as to the consumer. A lot of you are consumers that listen to the show. What are the advantages and disadvantages of living in an area like this? So let's start with the advantages first. I would say number one would be you have improved basic amenities. So they're usually filled with a lot of different facilities. You have schools usually close by. You have shopping. You have restaurants, usually near medical facilities. The roads within the urban area are usually good to make commuting smooth, and hopefully. Now, Santana Row had to really take care of all of the street situation, and they're fixing all that's coming off of the freeway. But usually there's a lot more amenities attached to living in an urban village, and it's more convenient, it's more walkable. So that's really an important, and that's really the key component to all this. And typically, a lot of talking about transportation and whatnot, a lot of where they're trying to put public transportation are usually going to be by these urban villages or more urban areas, because they're trying to reduce the amount of people utilizing cars and motor operated vehicles. So you really got to keep in mind it's more about making it easy to live life and not have to rely on so many other things and be far away from things. So I would say the number one thing is going to be, again, improve basic amenities and things that are going to be close to you. That really is the bedrock and the foundation of what an urban village is supposed to provide. So then the other things that you might not think about, the second thing would be numerous employment opportunities. They're going to be readily available in those urban areas because there's going to be a lot of different industries, offices, shopping complexes, sometimes factories, or even government agencies that are going to be in this vicinity or even within the actual center. And it makes it possible for people to find jobs and have, now it's debatable whether some of those jobs will be able to support you enough to live in that actual community, but in a place like Santana Row, they have some pretty high-end businesses that have their offices there. So it just depends on the actual urban village you're looking at, but it definitely could provide you an employment opportunity. And then think about your commute to work at that point. You're practically walking a couple blocks or a block to go to your job. So, from a quality of life standpoint, that's really an important thing. The third thing I would say is even more so with the newer urban villages being built is technology. And usually this cutting-edge technology is going to they're becoming more and more advanced. It's going to make it more comfortable for people to live in these places. Like, for example, one of the new things they're doing now, because land is getting so valuable and there's not as much of it, a lot of times developers that are building these different urban villages or mixed-use properties, you have to build parking underground. Well, how do you save room parking underground? They have these stackable parking now where you drive your car in and it basically moves your car for you and parks it into a different spot. So A, they're saving space, and B, it's saving you time and parking and putting your car away for you, essentially. So it's pretty cool. And also, with urban villages and urban areas, people are more cognizant of the environment. And so, a lot of people may be driving electric cars. So a lot of these places are now installing electric charging stations and making it almost standard for your home or your unit to have an electric outlet or something to plug your car in. So I would say that the technology in these places are getting more and more advanced, and it's going to make your life easier to live and make it more convenient. So technology is the third thing. And then again, the other thing might be the availability of various business ventures. So due to the high population density in urban areas, goods and services are needed on a higher scale, and thereby making it possible to have many business opportunities in there. You're going to be interacting and socializing with a lot of people that live within that community. So I think different things are going to come your way, and you're going to be able to network a little bit better. So it's got a lot of advantages. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk about the disadvantages, and even more on the commercial side, and people that are out there listening that are developers too. We're going to talk about some of those advantages as well. So you're listening to Real Estate Radio Live. I'm Mike D'Ambrosio. Stick around. We'll be right back on the other side of the break.
For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Do you know Mike D'Ambrosio, reputable real estate professional in the Silicon Valley? He was born and raised here in Silicon Valley. He's very excited to be working in a geographic area that he loves and knows well. He firmly believes that this is the best place to live in the entire country. He specializes in Bay Area real estate. Are your family's needs changing? Are your parents in need of changing living conditions? Are your children first-time home buyers? Do you just want to expand your income revenue stream through real estate investments? He would be happy to meet with you and discuss your options while explaining the advantages of using his team to expand your opportunities of owning real estate in the Bay Area. He's dedicated to providing you quality, honesty, and creativity in every real estate transaction. He's highly recommended by many for his attention to his clients' needs and by making sure that your experience is as enjoyable and as painless as possible. Real estate transactions are not small tasks, and that's why they should be done efficiently, smartly, and as thoroughly as possible. That's his promise to you. Whether you're buying or selling, let him put his expertise and experience to work for you and make your transaction a smooth and enjoyable one. The time is now. Don't let another opportunity slip by. Call him directly at 408-630-0101. Email Mike at MikeDsells.com or visit his website, MikeDsells.com. Cal BRE number 0184192. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's topic or guests, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Mike D'Ambrosio.
Welcome back in. This is Mike D'Ambrosio with Real Estate Radio Live, the podcast series. For all things real estate, you go to my website, MikeDsells.com. You can go on there and find more information about the golf tournament I mentioned earlier in the show. I'll be plugging that for the next couple months. You can count on that. So feel free to mute me at that time if you want or not, but I hope you guys can make it out and support some great causes. Again, feel free to reach out, Mike at RERadiolive.com. And so today we're talking about urban villages, the advantages, the disadvantages, and later on in this segment I'm going to talk about really as a homeowner, you're going to be dealing with the cities trying to approve more of these urban villages down the road, and some of these might be coming into your neighborhood. And so I'm going to talk directly to you about why it's good to have some of these urban villages and in your area and that type of thing. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But before I get to that, just to summarize what advantages there are of living in an urban village, again, a lot of improved amenities and amenities that are close to you. The second being employment opportunities, the third being technology, and then the fourth being, availability of business ventures and different networking opportunities and whatnot. And so, okay, let's get into the disadvantages. So really, the biggest disadvantage of living in an urban village is the high cost of living. Not only is it going to probably be more expensive on a price per square foot standpoint when you're paying for the lifestyle, you're paying for the reasons I mentioned before that are advantages, and for the convenience. So typically your price per square foot is going to be a little bit higher. So, and not only that, the actual price of the real estate, but goods and services are going to be probably more expensive than they would be elsewhere. So if you're going to the grocery store in an urban village, I would venture to guess your typical fruits and vegetables are probably going to be a little bit more expensive than they would be out in suburbia. So you can probably count on that because of the fact that these business owners have to pay higher rent too. So not only is real estate more expensive on the actual consumer side, but it's also going to be more expensive for the actual business owner that's renting those spaces as well. And the reason they have to pay more for that, again, is for the convenience. They have constant foot traffic going in and out of their stores, whereas if you own that type of store out in the middle of nowhere or out in the middle of a big tract, set of tract homes, your rent's going to be a little bit cheaper, therefore you could probably charge a little bit less. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, the second thing would be, and I don't know if I necessarily really agree with this or not. I mean, it just depends on what type of person you are. But I would say the lack of potential personal relationships or getting to know people, because a lot of people are coming in and out of these urban villages and utilizing the services. But unless you're really Mr. Rogers and you're getting to know your neighbors and all that stuff, I mean, people typically, what I've observed, especially by showing a lot of property in these urban villages, is it's not as personable, and mostly people keep to themselves or within their group, their whole little group. They'll go out with them and they'll do that. But I haven't seen a lot of personal relationships developed in that. So I mean, that's I think that could go either way, to be honest with you. That's a weaker one, I think, as far as a disadvantage goes, but it is one of them. The third thing would be pollution. So it's definitely going to be probably a little bit more polluted than you would be out in the countryside, because you're going to be probably in more of an enclosed area with cars and different types of gas and stuff like that coming out. So I would say pollution is probably going to be a little bit higher in those areas. And along those same lines too is overcrowding. So it's going to be more congested. I mean, take San Francisco, for example. That's a really congested city. I'm not saying San Francisco is an urban village, but it's definitely got that. It's an urban environment. So you're going to have to deal with more people in getting through that. And if you're okay with it, that's fine. I personally can never live in San Francisco or never probably live in an urban village myself, but it's definitely going to be a little bit more crowded. And then, the other thing might be crime. It's easier to commit crimes and get away with them in an urban village rather than potentially living in like a neighborhood. So you might have to be, and again, most of these urban villages, some of them are in nice areas, but a lot of them you'll notice that they're being built in up-and-coming areas, or what we call gentrifying areas. So you might be surrounded by a little bit less attractive of areas, so you're going to have to worry about crime at some point too. But I think that the buildings are typically going to be more secure, so you might not have to worry about that as much. So those are really some of the disadvantages I see it as living in an urban village. So as an owner, though, or someone that's living around, or even just a general property owner, why is it good to have mixed-use development and urban villages in your area or in your city? And I would say the number one reason really would be it's going to spur revitalization. And I would just say look at, again, not to say that AT&T Park is an urban village, but look at what happened outside of AT&T Park. That entire area used to be a complete and utter dump. It was probably one of the worst parts of the city. But what you saw was, as AT&T Park got built, then you started seeing one mixed-use development after another, one little urban village after another, and now it's one of the more high-end areas in the city. I mean, even some of the Giants players are living there. So it's really going to spur, typically when you get one urban village or one mixed-use project built in a place, it's going to spur revitalization outside of that, not only because of just the building and the people that are coming in there itself, but the city probably has somewhat of a plan for that area as well. So it's just something to keep in mind. I would say it's going to promote a lot of different types of mixes of retail, restaurants, offices, civic uses, multifamily housing. It's going to provide more housing opportunity and more choices. I mean, what other choice do we have than to build up, especially in Silicon Valley or in other big metropolitan areas? So it's going to, whereas before, if you build a house on a 10 or 20,000 square foot lot. Now you can build a 10-story tower on a 20,000 square foot lot with not a couple hundred, but maybe 100 units. So whereas before you got one unit on that lot, you might be able to get 50 or 100 units on that lot. So it's going to provide more choices for people to buy housing. It also is going to increase affordable housing opportunities, because the cities are going to require typically the developer to provide a certain percentage of affordable housing units with a large development project. It's just a fact of life now. It's something that we have to deal with all over California. Now, whether the developer opts out of that by paying an in lieu fee or not is another question, but most of the time they have to provide affordable housing with those big types of development projects. And then I mentioned this before from a standpoint of getting around and traveling and whatnot. It's going to promote pedestrian and bicycle travel. It's going to reduce auto dependency, roadway congestion, and whatnot. So it really is going to be helpful in those aspects, and that's really the point of building mixed use and building urban villages, is to really promote more of, I guess you call it an old school lifestyle, where you're not reliant on driving a car everywhere, and you can walk to the store or walk to the grocery store and do the things that you have to do without getting into a car. So I think that's really, really important, and that's really the big motto of a lot of these places. And then, it's just really going to embody and help smart growth. That's what we really need to figure out now, and especially in areas like San Jose that has over 1 million people living in it, which is hard to believe, but we need to start growing the city smart rather than having what we call urban sprawl, which is when you have giant housing tracts out in the middle of nowhere and it's not really close to any amenities and whatnot. So it's going to really help our cities figure out how to start growing smarter, how to bring in amenities towards these urban villages, how to bring in transportation like BART and like bus systems and anything else that's really good, light rail, all of that stuff. So, growing smart as a city is really important. So there you have it. Those are some of the advantages, disadvantages of living in an urban village. And if you're already an owner in an area, why it might be good to have one around you. If you have any other questions, you can always reach out, Mike at reradiolive.com, MikeDsells.com. Hey, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at reradiolive.com.